Hello, and welcome to Laila's Lullabies, where we spend time exploring with Laila, a traveler who wanders the world at her own pace while sharing her most enriching and restorative moments with you. In tonight's story, we'll follow Laila as she explores the dynamic city of Mumbai, India. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to remember. Just settle in, get comfortable, and let yourself go. We're so glad you're here. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. The morning light filtering through the windows of the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel was soft and golden, and Laila woke to the sound of her friends already awake and moving around in the adjoining room. The friendship between the Fab Five, Laila, Marina, Beth, Claire and Josie, went back to college days and shared apartments and late-night conversations that had solved the world's problems. Life had scattered them across different cities, different careers, different paths. But the bond had remained, and they all looked forward to their meetups in amazing global locations. "Coffee's here," Marina called through the open connecting door. They'd splurged on the hotel, a legendary property right on the harbor, with its distinctive red-domed architecture and history stretching back over a century. January in Mumbai meant pleasant weather, the oppressive humidity of monsoon season months away, temperatures warm but manageable. They gathered in one room for coffee and pastries, all five of them dressed in light layers, ready for a day of exploring. "So the taxi driver should be here at 9, Claire said, checking her phone. "Same guy the hotel recommended. He's got good reviews. Seems he knows the city well." "What's first?" Josie asked. "Gateway of India is literally right outside," Beth said, gesturing toward the windows. "We can walk there before the taxi arrives." They finished their coffee and made their way down through the hotel's grand lobby, all marble and chandeliers and staff in crisp uniforms. Outside, the January morning was bright and already bustling with activity. The Gateway of India stood at the water's edge, a massive stone arch, built to commemorate King George V's visit in 1911. The monument was impressive up close, its Indo-Saracenic architecture combining Indian and Mughal influences with British imperial grandeur. "It's huge," Marina said, tilting her head back to take in the full height of the arch. The area around the gateway was busy, vendors selling balloons and toys, photographers offering to take pictures, tourists and locals alike milling about. Beyond the monument, the Arabian Sea stretched out, boats bobbing in the harbor, the early morning sun glinting off the water. "There's Elephanta Island," Laila said, pointing to the island visible across the harbor. "The cave temples are supposed to be incredible." "Next trip," Beth said. "We've got too much to see on the mainland today." Their taxi driver arrived on schedule, a cheerful man named Rajesh, who greeted them warmly and helped them into his Ambassador, the classic Indian taxi with its distinctive rounded shape. "Good morning, ladies. Welcome to Mumbai. You are ready to see the city?" "Very ready," Claire said. "Excellent, excellent. We will start at Colaba Causeway, do some shopping, then CST station, very famous, very beautiful. Then Crawford Market, lunch, Marine Drive, Gandhi Museum, sunset at Hanging Garden, and finish at Chowpatty Beach for dinner. Good plan?" "Perfect plan," Josie confirmed. Rajesh navigated through Mumbai's morning traffic with practiced ease, pointing out landmarks as they went. The city was awake and moving. Cars and buses and auto rickshaws weaving between lanes, pedestrians crossing wherever there was space, vendors setting up their stalls. "Mumbai never stops," Rajesh said, always moving, always busy. This is what we love about our city, the energy, the opportunity. People come from all over India to Mumbai. It is the city of dreams. Colaba Causeway was already bustling, the street lined with shops and stalls selling everything imaginable, clothing and jewelry, handicrafts and antiques, books and electronics. They wandered through, Rajesh waiting patiently with the taxi while they explored. "These scarves are beautiful," Marina said, examining silk in jewel tones. "Very good quality," the shopkeeper assured her. "Kashmiri silk, best price for you." "How much?" Marina asked. The negotiation began, a friendly back and forth that seemed as much social ritual as commercial transaction. Eventually Marina purchased 3 scarves at a price both parties seemed satisfied with. They browsed for another 30 minutes. Beth bought silver jewelry, Josie found a leather bag, Claire picked up some postcards and small prints of Mumbai landmarks. The chaos of the market was overwhelming but exciting, every stall offering something new to look at. Back in the taxi, Rajesh drove them to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, the train station formerly known as Victoria Terminus. "This is UNESCO World Heritage Site," Rajesh said as they pulled up. "Very famous architecture, Gothic revival with Indian influences. You must see inside." The building was spectacular, a massive Victorian Gothic structure with turrets and arches and intricate stone carving. But it wasn't just a monument, it was a functioning train station, one of the busiest in India, and the platforms were packed with commuters. They walked through the main hall, craning their necks to look at the soaring ceilings, the stained glass windows, the detailed tile work. The blend of British Gothic architecture with Indian decorative elements created something unique, neither purely European nor purely Indian, but distinctly Bombay, as the city had been called when the station was built. "Imagine building this in 1888, Laila said, looking at the craftsmanship, the amount of labor, the skill required." "The British wanted to make a statement," Rajesh said, "to show the power and permanence of the empire. Now it is Indian heritage. We have taken it and made it ours." From the station, they drove to Crawford Market, another Victorian-era structure, this one a massive covered market selling produce, flowers, meat and spices. The market was a sensory overload, the smell of flowers mixed with spices, vendors calling out prices, the riot of colors from fruit and vegetable displays. "Stay together," Rajesh advised. "Market is very crowded, easy to lose people." They wandered through the aisles taking in the abundance, mangoes and papayas piled high, flowers strung into garlands, spices in every color displayed in enormous burlap sacks. Beth stopped to buy fresh chai from a vendor, and they all shared the small clay cups, the sweet milky tea, a welcome refreshment. "This is overwhelming," Claire said, watching a vendor expertly slice a coconut with a machete. "This is daily life for millions of Mumbaikars," Rajesh said. "They come here for their groceries, their flowers, everything. For you it is exotic, for them it is normal." By the time they emerged from the market, everyone was ready for lunch. Rajesh took them to a restaurant he knew, a place serving traditional Maharashtrian food, nothing fancy but clean and welcoming. They ordered thalis, round metal trays with small bowls of various dishes, and the food kept coming. Rice and dal, vegetables prepared different ways, chapatis, pickles, papad, and a sweet dish to finish. They ate family style, sharing and trying everything, the flavors complex and varied. "This is incredible," Josie said. "So many different tastes." Mumbai is very cosmopolitan, Rajesh explained. We have food from all over India, Punjabi, South Indian, Bengali, everything. But Maharashtrian food is special. It is our home food. After lunch properly stuffed, they drove along Marine Drive, the sweeping promenade that curved along the coast, lined with Art Deco buildings on one side and the Arabian Sea on the other. At night, this is called Queen's Necklace, Rajesh said, because the lights along the drive look like a necklace. Very romantic. Young couples come here in the evening. The drive was beautiful, the sea breeze coming through the taxi windows, the elegant buildings with their distinctive Art Deco architecture passing by. Marina had her camera out, photographing the buildings, the palm trees, the way the light fell on the water. Mumbai has one of the largest collections of Art Deco buildings in the world, Rajesh said with obvious pride. People think Art Deco is New York, Miami. But we have it too. Our own style, Indo-Deco we call it. They stopped at Mani Bhavan, the house where Mahatma Gandhi had stayed during his visits to Bombay, now preserved as a museum. The building was modest, a 3-story house in a residential neighborhood, nothing grand or imposing. Inside, the museum documented Gandhi's life and work, his philosophy of non-violence, his leadership of the independence movement, his personal effects and letters. One room was preserved as it had been when he stayed there, simple and spare, a spinning wheel in the corner. From this house, Gandhi launched the non-cooperation movement and the Salt March. Their museum guide explained. Important moments in India's freedom struggle. He believed in simple living. You can see from the room how little he needed. They spent an hour at the museum, reading displays, watching documentary footage of Gandhi speaking, understanding more about the man and the movement he led. It's humbling, Beth said quietly as they left, seeing how much he achieved through peaceful resistance. Gandhi changed the world from that simple house, Rajesh said. That is the power of ideas, of moral force. Not armies, not wealth, just truth and persistence. As the afternoon moved toward evening, Rajesh drove them up to Kamala Nehru Park, perched on Malabar Hill with views over the city and the sea. The park was lovely, well-maintained gardens, families out enjoying the pleasant January weather, and a distinctive boot-shaped structure that children were climbing on. But the real attraction was the view. From here, they could see across South Mumbai, the dense cityscape, the curved sweep of Marine Drive beginning to glow as early evening lights came on, the Arabian Sea stretching to the horizon. The sun will set soon, Rajesh said. Best view in Mumbai, I think. They found a spot and settled in to watch. Other visitors had the same idea, couples sitting close together, families spreading blankets, everyone oriented toward the west where the sun was descending. The sky began its transformation, the bright blue deepening, hints of orange and pink appearing at the horizon. The city below was in that liminal space between day and night, lights beginning to flicker on in buildings, the traffic on Marine Drive creating streams of headlights. This is gorgeous, Marina said, her camera clicking steadily. The sun touched the horizon, and the colors intensified, the whole western sky painted in shades of orange and gold, the clouds catching fire, the sea reflecting it all back. The view of Marine Drive was spectacular, the curve of lights along the coast, earning its nickname of Queen's Necklace, glowing against the gathering darkness. No one spoke much during the sunset, all of them caught up in the beauty of it. Even Rajesh, who must have seen this view hundreds of times, stood watching with appreciation. When the sun had fully set and the sky was deepening to purple, they made their way back to the taxi. Now for the best part, Rajesh said. Dinner at Chowpatty Beach. Street food, very famous, very delicious, you will love it. Chowpatty Beach was alive with evening energy. The beach itself was crowded with people, families, groups of friends, couples walking at the water's edge, and the entire beachfront was lined with food stalls, their lights bright against the darkening sky. Stay together, Rajesh advised again, and try everything. This is Mumbai food, the real Mumbai. They wandered from stall to stall, ordering small portions to share. Pani puri, crispy shells filled with spicy water and potatoes, eaten in quick succession. Pav bhaji, a spicy vegetable mash served with buttered rolls. Bhel puri, a crunchy mix of puffed rice and vegetables with tangy chutneys. Kulfi, dense Indian ice cream in flavors like pistachio and mango. This is amazing, Claire said, her mouth full of pav bhaji. Why is street food always the best food? Because it is made with love and skill, Rajesh said, grinning. These people have been making the same dishes for generations. They know every trick, every secret. They ate until they couldn't eat anymore, trying different stalls, comparing versions of the same dishes, laughing at the mess they were making and not caring. Around them, Mumbai was doing the same. Families sharing food, children running on the beach, vendors calling out their specialties, the city enjoying its evening. A group of college students was nearby, also eating street food, and one of them called over. You are enjoying Chowpatty? Very much, Josie said. The food is incredible. Best beach in Mumbai, the young woman said. We come here all the time. Is it your first visit? First time in Mumbai, Marina confirmed. You picked a good time. January is perfect, not too hot, not raining, and Chowpatty is the place to be. This is where we come to relax, to eat, to enjoy life. They chatted for a few more minutes. The students recommended other places to visit, shared their love for their city, asked about America. The friendliness was genuine and welcoming, and when they parted ways, everyone was smiling. They walked along the beach, working off some of the food, listening to the waves and the sounds of the city behind them. The lights of Marine Drive glowed steadily, the Queen's Necklace stretching away around the curve of the coast. This has been a perfect day, Laila said. Agreed, the others chorused. Rajesh drove them back to the Taj, navigating the evening traffic with the same ease he'd shown all day. When they pulled up at the hotel, they thanked him profusely, tipping generously, exchanging contact information in case they needed a driver again. You are welcome, Rajesh said warmly. Mumbai is my city, and I am happy to share it. Come back again, there is always more to see. The hotel lobby felt almost surreal after the intensity of the day. The quiet luxury, the marble floors, the soft lighting. They took the elevator up to their floor and gathered in one room, collapsing into chairs and onto beds. My feet hurt, Josie announced. Same, Claire agreed, but worth it. They ordered room service, just chai, nothing heavy after the feast at Chowpatty, and recapped the day. The chaos of Crawford Market, the grandeur of CST Station, the simple power of Mani Bhavan, the stunning sunset from Kamla Nehru Park, the delicious overload of street food. Mumbai is intense, Marina said. The density, the energy, the contrasts. But it's also amazing. I've never been anywhere quite like it. The people are what made it, Beth added. Everyone we talked to was so friendly, so proud of their city. Rajesh especially, He could have just driven us around, but he really wanted us to understand Mumbai, to appreciate it. And the food, Josie said. Can we talk about the food? I want to live at Chowpatty Beach. They laughed, but there was truth in it. The food had been a highlight, not just the flavors but the experience of eating it, standing at stalls with locals, sharing the evening ritual of beach food and sea air and community. Eventually, people started drifting to their rooms. Laila brushed her teeth and changed, then settled by the window with a cup of chai from room service. From here, she could see the gateway of India lit up below, the harbour beyond, boats moving across the dark water. She thought about the day, the layers of history visible in the Victorian architecture, the energy of the markets, the peaceful simplicity of Gandhi's room. She exhaled into the memory of the sunset over the city, the joyful chaos of street food at the beach. Mumbai was a city of contrasts, wealth and poverty side by side, historical buildings and modern construction, the heritage of colonial rule transformed into Indian identity. But more than anything, it was alive, pulsing with energy, with millions of people pursuing their dreams, building their lives, contributing to the constant motion and noise and vitality of the city. The five of them had experienced just one day in Mumbai, just a tiny slice of what the city offered. They'd stayed in the relatively wealthy area of South Mumbai, seen the tourist sites, eaten the famous food. But even in that limited experience, the city had revealed something of itself. Its pride, its complexity, its inexhaustible energy. The January night was warm, and she could hear the city continuing below, the distant honking of horns, the murmur of voices, the endless soundtrack of Mumbai that never stopped, day or night. Somewhere out there, Rajesh was probably driving other passengers, sharing his city with them the way he'd shared it today. Somewhere, the food stalls at Chowpatty were still serving customers. Somewhere, trains were still pulling in and out of CST station, carrying millions of commuters to and from their destinations. The city of dreams, Rajesh had called it. Looking out over the lights of Mumbai, Laila understood why. There was something about this place, the sheer scale of it, the sense that anything was possible if you were willing to work for it, the way millions of people from all over India had come here and made it home. The energy was infectious, the optimism tangible despite all the challenges and inequalities. She sat by the window for a long time, sipping her chai, watching the lights of the city, listening to its endless symphony of sound. Tomorrow they'd explore more, maybe take a ferry to Elephanta Island, or visit the museums, or just wander through different neighborhoods. But tonight she held the best gift of this day, the warmth of Rajesh's pride in his city, the friendliness of strangers who welcomed them and shared their Mumbai. The gateway of India glowed steadily below, a monument to arrival and welcome, and Laila felt grateful to have arrived here, to have experienced this remarkable city, to have shared it with her friends, all of them discovering together its layers and complexities and undeniable magnetism.